Proof of work may have finally jumped the shark, guys. It appears that even the Pope hates Bitcoin now. Get ready. Let's go. We might have hit a tipping point here. When I first got into crypto back in 2012, 2013-ish, I don't think I could have foreseen a day when there would be a tweet from the Pope that would be of so much concern to the entire crypto space. Let's make something clear right out of the gate here. It is not at all obvious that the Pope was even talking about Bitcoin. He said, technology based on the use of highly polluting fossil fuels needs to be replaced without delay. There is reason to hope that humanity at the dawn of the 21st century will be remembered for having generously shouldered its grave responsibilities. He could be talking about the internal combustion engine and coal-fired power plants, all that kind of stuff that has nothing to do with crypto. Although you could say that, perhaps a lot of Bitcoin mining is powered by coal-fired power plants. But he could be talking about all that kind of stuff. He could be talking about other industrial uses of fossil fuels. It could be that the Pope did not have any kind of crypto thoughts in his mind at all when he made this tweet. It could be that he was just worried about environmental degradation of the planet we all live on. I think that's very possible. However, the crypto community's response to this tweet is the reason why we're covering this. I think it tells a lot of the story about where we are as a crypto space. So, of course, we have the obligatory parceling of letters here by Lolly. They're trying to, make the Pope's message spell out buy Bitcoin. I think we see that all the time with any kind of negative Bitcoin news these days, or any perceived negative Bitcoin news. Maybe the most charming message in all this was this one from Cardano's own Cardano Hieronymus. I speak zero Italian. However, it's always entertaining to read Romance languages because there was so much loaning of terms from the Romance languages into English that a lot of this I think would be recognizable to any speaker of English. Very charming message. He's like, "Ciao, Papa Francesco," and then it looks like he's saying something about a platform based on blockchain technology with the lowest possible energy impact, Cardano. He talks about Cardano's involvement with the scholastic system in Ethiopia. Down here, he's talking about the Western world and the continent of Africa, and it looks like financial services of the Western world. And he ends the message with, "It's a revolution." So again, I speak no Italian, but it looks like a very heartfelt message about the awesomeness of Cardano from Cardano Hieronymus. If you are in the Cardano Twitter space at all, you'll know him as the person who put together the giant sort of portrait of all of Cardano social media. It's actually kind of a cool, interesting little graphic. It's got like hundreds of social media accounts from around the Cardano space. But maybe one of the more entertaining responses to this tweet came from the infamous Bitcoin maximalist Peter McCormack, who responded, "If you tweet about proof of stake, we'll be having words, lad." This was a tweet to the Pope. We got Peter McCormack tweeting to the Pope that they're going to have words if he tweets next about proof of stake. Obviously tongue in cheek, but still it says a lot about where this space is. And I mean, there are tons of other responses. How many responses? 2,600 retweets, 2,100 quote tweet. There are a lot of Bitcoin people feeling the pressure here. And some of them, obviously get that this might have nothing to do with Bitcoin and they're just joking. But I think a lot of people took this to be a condemnation of the energy usage of Bitcoin's proof of work. Just the fact that Bitcoin maximalists are so sensitive about this, that somebody would say they'll be having words with the Pope if he even talks about proof of stake, that shows how insecure that whole community is right now about the future. I think they can feel it. They know that proof of stake is better. They can't come up with a good reason why the future would be proof of work instead of proof of stake. It's obvious how seriously some people took this message. Here we have a random response. Francisco, people in poor countries use Bitcoin to protect themselves. Central banks in Latin America, LATAM, like he's abbreviating it to LATAM. Central banks in Latin America and Africa could use Bitcoin to hedge against US dollar inflation. This misleading message might harm those you want to protect the most. So, I mean, a lot of people took this very seriously, and they're trying to white knight for their beloved Bitcoin. If this many people took this tweet this seriously, this is also a question in the back of their minds, right? It's kind of like if you go up to your fittest buddy with like the 8 pack and you like make a joke and he's like, Mr. like 2% body fat guy, if you make a joke about him being obese, it's not gonna be a problem. He's just gonna like laugh, right? But if you comment on your significant other if you jokingly make a remark to your significant other that they might be obese and they actually are insecure about being a little bit chubby or something like that, it's going to be a problem, right? I think we have the same thing going on here with the Bitcoin community. They are actually afraid that this is a huge problem. They're concerned that this might be a huge problem for proof of work, and they might have a lot of money stacked up in proof of work. All along, everybody's been telling them, hey, buy Bitcoin first, buy Bitcoin. Ignore the rest of, this gigantic asset space. And now all of a sudden, they've got one of the most influential, what do we call him? Innovators / entrepreneurs in the world, like openly saying Bitcoin is bad because of the impact it has on the world's energy usage. And then they see this from the Pope. And I think it's got a lot of people in the space really thinking about whether or not proof of work is the future. And I think in the back of their minds, in some corner of their subconscious and even their conscious, they all know proof of stake just makes a lot more sense. Speaking of proof of stake, this is a very interesting development in the economics of our ecosystem. You can have someone run a stake pool for you for $120 per month. And not just anyone, someone who is very, very good at running stake pools. This is Chris Graffagnino. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name. Apologies, Chris. But Chris wrote, if I remember right, Chris wrote some very, very good instructions on how to set up a stake pool during the early days of the incentivized testnet. I think Chris put out some very, very helpful stuff, which tells me that this guy knows what he's doing. And the economics have become such that you can have him. It looks like you can have him run a stake pool for you for $120 per month. Some people might be put off by the terminology in this post because he says Cardano can be mined for $120 per month. People asked about that. He explained, hey, a lot of people outside of Cardano don't understand the nomenclature in our ecosystem. I used the word mine, even though we all know staking is not really mining, because people don't know about the nomenclature of staking, and mining is technically just, running some software on a network for rewards. And that's what we're doing when we're running a stake pool anyway. So he's like, might as well use the terminology people will understand. I thought it was very interesting, for instance, if somebody wanted to set up a stake pool as an index fund, like we discussed in some of our previous videos. We've got Ethiopia news. So as promised, Ethiopia has granted a new telecom license to a consortium, including Vodafone, Safaricom out of Nairobi, and Sumitomo Corp. They're going to invest $8 billion into the network they're going to build out in Ethiopia to cover the entire country in 4G. This is big news for Cardano because we were told this was going to happen, and we actually covered it on this channel, that they would be issuing new telecom licenses. And the prime minister explained, that the current license holders just weren't capable of doing what needed to be done for the Digital Ethiopia 2025 initiative, of which the Cardano Atala Prism solution that the Ministry of Education is currently running, is a part. So this is a big deal. People asked, how can we expect Ethiopia to be fertile grounds for Cardano if, so many people don't have access to the internet yet. This is a big part of how people will have access to the internet. Obviously, we've got World Mobile doing excellent things in places like Tanzania, putting up a mesh network to give people internet coverage via their cell phones. That's also going to play a large role, I think, in the Cardano rollout across the continent. But here we have Ethiopia, the first country where Cardano, has been able to roll out a really big deployment. Famously, the world's largest blockchain deployment ever. And now we have the connectivity piece here. This is how Ethiopians, looks like across the country, are going to be able to connect to the internet so that we can then connect them to the financial rails provided by the Cardano network. See you tomorrow.